No. Now they passed legislation. You don't gotta have none of that shit.
Oh wow!
In New York, they loosened the laws up. You didn't hear about that? No. Everybody's trying to get a gun now. I'm a felon. I applied. Yeah. I swear to God. I swear to God. No. But listen, I have a YO. What's called a youthful offender.
Okay. But still, you felt guilty
on a robbery. Mm-hmm. But technically, they can't hold it against me. The reason why I knew that I can apply is because they approved me for my liquor license.
Oh, wow. That's big.
A person with a felony cannot get a liquor license. So when I went to this company, I hired a company to try to get my liquor license. I asked them, I said, look, I got this, and that. They was like, nah, you're a youthful offender. You have the paperwork to prove it. They cannot hold it against you. They're going to see it.
Right.
But they cannot. Technically, it's like you never had a felony. Yeah. It's called a youthful offender. So, when I robbed that nigga.
When I was 12.
I really did.
That's what you was.
I was 14, 15 years old.
That makes sense.
Man, so you really.
Yeah, and then they gave me 5 years probation for the felony. And they said, okay, it's a young dude. We're going to give you a youthful offender. So you don't get out of, no more trouble, whatever. This is not going to be on your record. Then I got in trouble again, and they revoked my probation, and they sentenced me to jail time. But they allowed me to keep my youthful offender status. So I did the time for it,
right?
But they still allowed me to keep the youthful offender.
The first one was a robbery. What was the second one for?
No. Well, it was a burglary or some shit. I smacked the nigga, took his car.
Oh, because you didn't have a gun no more. They took your gun away, so now you just break into shit.
Just smacking nigga.
Yeah. Well, Brooklyn Basement Podcast.
Yeah, man, welcome.
We here.
The legendary.
Yeah, we back. We here.
Oh, we recording already?
Yeah, we were recording, but now we can go right into it.
Yeah, just get into it.
That's
just
a
good warm up.
We'll get it for what it is.
Now that you guys know I'm a felon.
Nah, he won't put that on.
Nah, we keep it.
I don't care.
That's the clickbait right
there. I come from the bottom. There's no you that's not him. So if it's a problem with one of my, you know that I got him. My brother, they shot him. Wish I was beside him. He would have been here or I would have been with him because I'm a rider.
Yo, Brooklyn Basement Podcast. We back again. So of course, we got my boy Will. We got a special guest who happens to be a friend of both of ours, right?
For a while. A long time.
For a while, good friend. And it's perfect because this year marks the 50th anniversary of hip-hop. Right?
Yes.
Also, Ray's been in the game for a long time. He was part of a legendary TV show, Video Music Box. So it makes sense that we will have him here, catch up with some of that stuff, which will lead into his current stuff, which is clubs and comedy and all the stuff that you already know about, but they may not know about. So,
definitely.
Without further ado, today we have with us Mr. Ray Dejon.
Welcome, Ray. Welcome.
We're just gonna make believe there's hand claps in the background, and you know what I mean.
Okay. He said we'll make believe. They go bullshit.
Ray, what's up, bro?
You guys don't have sound effects?
No sound effects.
We have applause button. What's going on?
If you haven't looked around this establishment yet, we don't have a budget for much.
I see you got the refrigerator, the water cooler.
That fridge ain't even plugged in. If you open it, it smells like a dead body in
it. Without Robin, some bullshit.
A radio that don't work.
Hold up. You said the basement podcast?
Yeah, the Brooklyn Basement.
Ladies and gentlemen, I came here with my daughter. And let me just show you how we had to get in. First of all, we had to go through a gate outside. Then it was 2 trap doors. And we came down 2 levels. There's no cell phone activity here. This is really not a basement. This is a shelter.
A fallout shelter.
Right, for when the Ukraine war hits Brooklyn. It's good to be here. I know AR for a very, very long time. And I actually started, getting experience on radio with his radio station, which was DTF back in the days.
Right. Yeah.
I got my feet wet on that station, which eventually I was able to get on a regular FM radio 103.9. Nice. I've done some BLS. I've done a little bit of Hot 97. So it gave me a platform to get some experience. So I want to thank you for that.
And at the same time, I got into the comedy promotion through Ray. He was doing the theater at that time on Linden Boulevard and all that.
Comedy at the movies.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I met you when you guys did the Williams.
No, but that was later. From there, then I was like, yo, Ray, they opening up this theater in Williamsburg. Why don't you help me out with this? And we did a couple of shows over there. That was early. Like the theater was literally not even open yet when we started doing it.
That was a great concept. After doing that concept, people started doing that around the country. Actually, it's still a thing now where people are using movie theaters because movies are not what it used to be.
Right.
People are not going to the theaters like they used to, so they're using the theaters for corporate events, and so there's people around the country that are still doing the comedy, stand-up comedy in movie theaters. It's just a good, place to do it.
No, it was great. Linden was great. I always went
Linden
there.
was dope.
It was
Linden
crazy.
was
I
great.
remember used to bring out all the big names over there, Tracy Morgan, all these guys back then.
Man. So back then they all had some, good credits on Def Comedy Jam, but they weren't superstars yet.
Right.
And even before the movie theater, I was doing what's called comedy rooms. So a comedy room, for those of you who don't know, is when you take a bar, a restaurant, any kind of situation, and you transform it into a comedy club for that one evening.
Right.
So those were comedy rooms. And when Def Comedy Jam came out in BET Comic View, I had a little bit of I was a local celebrity on Video Music Box, so people knew me, and I always had a great sense of humor. I love laughing. I love comedy. And I also didn't want to step on Ralph McDaniels' toes. I didn't want to do a video show.
Right.
So I said, let me promote comedy. I'm out of his lane. There's no conflict because I needed that visual.
Right.
I needed that visual on TV. I needed that visibility so people could keep seeing me. And when I was promoting comedy, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Did you want to be a comedian at one point in your life, or it just kind of?
I never really thought about it. I always thought I was funny because when I was being raised, we called it ranking on people.
Right.
They eventually called it snapping, and so I was real good at that shit. I was really good. I used to make people want to fight me because I was so good at the mother jokes and so forth and so on. So I always had this sense of humor that kind of stuck out. I didn't know that eventually it would become a skill or eventually it would become something that I love.
Right.
That's part of my personality, and then I was able to translate that, into comedy in a technical way.
Right.
So I never knew that would happen. When I was on the Aeon Video Music Box, when I did Dance Traxx USA, which was the video show I did before Ralph's show, I had a funny personality on TV, along with the fact that I had interview skills only because I was a drug counselor. So because I was a counselor, I understood how to counsel and get shit out of people. But that was negative stuff. So when you're getting fun stuff and positive stuff, it was so much easier. Because Ralph was like, yo, how you able to interview so well? And I was like, yo, man, because I'm a counselor. This is what I do all day. I try to get information out of people and make it seem like a natural conversation. So everybody was like, yo, how do you go from drug counselor to Video Music Box? And I had to explain that element. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. And the fact that I had a funny personality and I was young, and clients, whether I was working on Rikers Island or working in a substance abuse program, they were very attentive to me because I had this young spirit. I was into fashion. I was into the trends, but I was also a positive dude with a sense of humor. So people listen,
Right.
So when did you get positive after you stopped robbing people? And
I did, yeah. After 27 arrests.
You figure like, it didn't work out. So like,
I'm gonna keep it real with you. I was really never a negative dude.
Right.
I just got pulled in a lot of directions because I came from a family that was dysfunctional with 8 children and a single parent. My mom did the best that she could. No disrespect, nothing against my mom, but she couldn't handle the load. So when you can't handle the load, your children start to drift to try to find something else that's entertaining or that will grab their attention. And so when I got to high school, that was it. When I changed from junior high school to high school, and you switching classes and all these new people and it's this big change, you want to be a part of something. And then I just started moving in this direction where I want to dress, I want to look good, I want to have some jewelry. I couldn't afford it with what my mom was giving me, so I started hustling.
because you were born and raised in Brooklyn, right?
Born and raised in Brooklyn, yeah.
So that time was real wild. In
The 80s,
Brooklyn.
I would say. Like the 80s it would be, right?
Nah, well, 70s going into the early 80s for me. I started getting, like, my first arrest was like in 78, 79, and then all the way to like 81, I got, just in that time period, I got maybe 26, 27 arrests.
Wow.
Eventually leading me to doing time in Elmira Correctional Facility, Katsaki, Greenhaven, eventually came home. But I got my GED while I was in there. I started going to college while I was in there.
He's like, I got to get my life together.
Yeah, yo, look, man, I want to thank everybody who was paying their taxes at the time. You paid. I never had a student loan because you guys paid for my education, and I appreciated it. And they don't do that no more, though. It's not even happening upstate no more. Before, they used to have college.
Right.
Not no more.
So that was a quick way to get free school.
Yeah, quick way. Quick way,
Get a
man.
2 to 4, come out with a master's or some shit. You know what I mean?
I ain't come out with a master's. I came out with damn near a bachelor's.
Oh.
Wow.
And then I finished it, and I got my certification for substance abuse when I came home.
So once you came home, you said, this is what I'm going to follow. And then
when I came home, I got a job working in New York Hospital in the city on 68th Street. And I was a housekeeping person. It was a good job back then, really good job. But I didn't let getting high go. So before I went to jail, I was getting high, but I didn't think I had a problem because I had mad money.
Right.
So I never had to go. I was selling drugs. I was hustling. I didn't think I had a problem. I tried to keep a regular job. I didn't want to hustle no more, but I was getting high. And then the high started overtaking my salary, which eventually I went back to hustling. So funny story, I'm working in housekeeping on an ER floor.
yeah.
I was working on that floor. So when I started getting high and I started developing this habit, I needed money. So I used to go, as soon as they go to surgery, I take the credit cards from the wallet. I spend on the credit cards. I put them back before these niggas get.
So while they,
Yo, dude, I had
running
this
it
shit
up while they
down to a science, bro.
Oh.
Bro,
Wow.
I was making so much money using
Maybe your
so
daughter doesn't know about this stuff.
much. She's hearing it. Yo, I was making so much bread.
That's
Yo, did I
crazy.
have a system? They couldn't. It was like, yo, there's a credit card bandit on the 8th floor. They could not catch me.
They couldn't
bro.
figure it out either.
They couldn't figure it out. So eventually they came, they had a meeting. It's like, listen, you know, if this shit don't stop, everybody on the floor is getting fired. Everybody got fired on the floor.
Because that shit didn't stop.
Everybody,
He didn't even know how to
everybody got
stop.
fired.
That's
So
crazy.
then I lost my job, and then now I'm in the street. Now I went and got a BB gun. I carved out the hole in the front.
Make it look, the hole look bigger.
Looked like a
real gun.
9mm, bro. I was robbing. So I owed these Colombian dudes in Brooklyn mad money because I took cocaine from them. My sister Evelyn was dealing with one of them. So I had to I moved to Queens to get away from them because they was looking for me to kill me. So I'm in Queens now robbing people with the fake gun. They called me the cab bandit. In St. Albans, Queens, I robbed maybe 22, 23 cabs in a row, bro. And then an article came out in the paper. My daughter's hearing all this shit. Article came out in the paper like the cab bandit. So my dad's sister, Haitian lady, her name was Aunt Yaya. That was my Haitian aunt. I went to her. I'm like, yo. I sat down because she worked in Queens at this cleaners called Nuclear Cleaners. See, these parts of your life, they're so clear to you. You remember details because this is when the whole change happened for me. So I go there. She looks at me. She goes, "You getting high?" I'm like, "Yep." I broke down, start crying. She's like, "I know somebody that works in the program. I could get you in tomorrow. You want to go?" I said, "Yeah, I want to go."
And that was it.
She gave me $20. She said, "Take this $20 transportation to get there." I went and used the $20. I got high.
His last
On
hit-
the way there.
Last time I got I was in a tunnel of a train station. So you go into the back. I walked in the back in the tunnel.
Right.
You have them little exits. I'm
Yeah.
sitting in there. It's just 3 niggas, me, myself, and I. And I smoked that $20. That was the last time I got high.
And
That
what
was January 6th.
This was crack?
1984. Yeah, no, yes. It was at the time, and it was crazy. I used drugs intranasally, sniffed, for years, but I freebased. Crack wasn't out yet. Crack came out in 86. But freebasing is the same thing as crack. The only difference is you make the freebase yourself. Crack, where the drug dealer prepared it for you, that's why they called it crack. But when you freebase, you make it and it comes back into a crack form.
Right.
And so that's the purest way to get high. And I was just, that was it, bro. That was the last time, January 6th,
That's crazy.
1984.
How difficult was it to finally realize when you like, all right, I kicked it, that's it, it's gone? How long?
it's weird for me to say this because, you know, they got all these sayings, you know, once a drug addict, always a drug addict, this and that. That doesn't really apply to me. Back in the days when I went into a drug program, first of all, nobody was on cocaine. Everybody was on heroin.
Right.
Everybody was on these depressant drugs where they standing around, you know. I was a dude that wanted to be hype. It's called you have drugs that are depressants, and then you have stimulants. Stimulants is cocaine, acid, them things that get you like this.
Right. Weed
and alcohol and opiates, they bring you down. Those are the dudes that want to have a mellow. I'm always like this. So when I went into the residential program in Queens called Elmcore, I was the only person using cocaine. Everybody else was on heroin. And you could also have drinking privileges. Like once you stay there for a little while and you go out on the pass, you could drink. Until they determined that after a while, like, no, alcohol is just as bad as anything else. So they stopped letting you drink. But me, I never drank. I never been drunk, never had a mixed drink. I used to drink Heinekens to kind of balance off the cocaine.
Right.
I never really got into drinking and all of that. So I didn't have an issue with that. I never, after that first day, man, cocaine is not physically addictive. It's mentally. Heroin, you withdraw physically, not cocaine.
Your body needs
cocaine, you
heroin.
miss it mentally, but you don't have physical cravings for it. After the second week, I was done, bro. That was it. I had this conviction in my mind, which was easy for me only because my mom laid out the values and principles that was already instilled in me. There's a lot of people that don't even have that foundation. So when they go into treatment, it's so hard for them to recover because they don't have that. I already had that. I already had that principles, values, you know, it was in me. Right. I recoursed my life. I didn't become this other person. I'm still the same motherfucker. I'm still the same dude that loved to dress. I'm still the same dude that got the attention from the girls. I'm still the same dude that everybody liked me, telling jokes. I'm the same person. I'm just doing different things to get the same result.
Right.
And my personality, fortunately, lined up with my careers, which made it easier for me not to go back to hustling and all of that, you know. So, you know, my daughter graduated from college.
Congratulations.
When she was, I met her mom when I came out to drug program. She was the first real relationship, her mother, and then I married her mom, and you know, and she graduated from Georgia State University. She's doing really well. My son is doing well. My son went through a whole bunch of, you know, whatever, never went the direction I did. So I don't think I'm the greatest father in the world, but I'm available. You know, I'm here. It's like I wasn't available before. I'm available now. It's not like we know what to say to our children all the time, but at least we're available. That's the thing. Right. Availability is the most, I think, is the most important thing. Like when they do need you, it's like, yo, you got to show up, like whatever it is. So that's basically how I got to where I am today. Everything else is just a result of me growing up in this dysfunctional household with you know,
which gave you the character and stuff like that, and stuff that you took from that you learned is also, you know.
I do jokes about that shit.
I was just about to say that.
I'm a reflection of my past.
Yeah.
It was like, yo, you know, I told my wife, I'm like, yo, why am I quiet when I have orgasms?
Right.
It could be me and her on an isolated Gilligan's Island. I'm like, I'm like, because I had 3 brothers and we was in the same bedroom. So when we was going through puberty, I had to keep it to myself. I'm on the top bunk like this.
Why is it rocking?
How did we get here?
Nah, it's funny, man, because I just said this joke the other day. I'm like, yo, the first time I ate coochie, I was like, damn, why the fuck do I know why this tastes like? How do I know, why does this taste familiar to me? I never ate pussy before, but it tastes familiar. So I had to think about it. So you go back to your past. I remember I used to take bubble baths with dishwashing detergent. I would itch for 2 weeks, but I didn't give a fuck. Right. But then I ain't really had no toys to play with because my mom ain't had money like that. So I used to be creative in the bathroom, and I looked around and I seen this red bottle.
The douchebag bottle.
The douchebag. I used to blow that shit up with water and blow bubbles. Yo, I told the crowd, like, not only did I know a pussy tastes like, but I knew what my mother's pussy tastes like.
He knew exactly what it tasted
It
like.
just got dark.
Right. Then the flavor changed. I'm like, this must be my older sister Ramona, because this don't taste like mommy.
That's funny shit.
That's some next level incest going
I
on
know
there.
That shit is funny though.
It is what it
True
is.
story though. Those red douchebags hanging out with grandma. used to
No,
use.
that's it, man.
Yeah.
That was in every household, right?
That was in every household. That's
It's in every household, bro.
then they started making disposables and the game changed.
Yeah,
So,
bro.
So from there, let's try to switch it up a little bit. You know?
well, let's keep it funny.
No, but from there, yeah. From there, at what point do you meet Ralph? Because I just saw that recently you gave him a shout out for his birthday, and how he's been a great friend to you, and a mentor because through there you wound up Video Music Box. So what's that relationship with him been like, and how did you guys meet and stuff?
Okay. So while I was working in the programs, anytime it was a fundraiser, anytime it was this or that, anything dealing with entertainment, I always volunteered. Like, yo, I want to do that. I want to be part of the fundraiser. Then I would wind up hosting it. Dr. Bob Lee from WBLS, his sister, Leanna Lee, was a director in the program where I went through treatment.
Right.
Eventually, I came back there to work there as a counselor. He used to come by all the time. He took me under his wing. And he's still on WBLS. He's still on the radio until this day. He's on WBLS. He took me under his wing, and I used to start emceeing wedding receptions. So I got a professional training on how to MC. So I started organizing my ability to host. And then I seen the audition for Dance Traxx USA, which was the same exact type of video show as Video Music Box. And it was on at the time as Ralph's show, but it was only on once a week. Ralph's show was on 6 days a week. I auditioned for the show. Oddly enough, the dude took me right away, and I started doing that show. And I said to myself, and I'm still working, I got to get on Ralph's show. So I would show up. I would go on location. I'm like, yo, he turned me down like maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Then I said, let me be strategic about this. I went to him during the holidays, which during the holidays, Video Music Box is booked at 30, 40 parties. Because that was the thing. They go around with the camera, shout out. Either that or they're on location for a concert or whatever, big parties. I went to him. He's like, yo, you came at the right time. We mad busy. I need another host. And from that day, 30 years ago, he put me on one of those events, and since then, the rest is history. I've been working with him consistently since then. He calls me back sometimes to do key interviews, like I just did the 50th anniversary of hip hop Drip, which was highlighting fashion and hip hop. I did that. I interviewed all the big wigs, Fat Joe, Dapper Dan. So he'll bring me in for those key interviews, but I've stayed with him ever since. I think the longevity of our relationship is that we became friends. He's my son's godfather. We became friends, and I never stepped on his toes. I was loyal, bro. Loyal to Ralph. Until this day, when he calls on me, I'm there. I didn't want to duplicate what Ralph was doing. MTV did that to Ralph.
That's true.
MTV duplicated and mimicked Video Music Box with Yo MTV Raps, with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. That was a copy of.
Right.
And if you watch the Showtime documentary, Ralph talks about how he went to MTV with that idea 2 or 3 years before they did it. But they didn't believe that the Midwest and the West Coast and the dirty South would embrace what we were doing in New York. It's like, nah, that's not going to resonate with these kids in Midwest and West Coast. That's when MTV was only playing rock and roll. They was only playing like white music or whatever. And then when they saw what Ralph was doing and they saw the numbers, they was like, okay, we're a national show. We're gonna make our own show. But he never wavered. People offered him, but they wanted to dilute it. They wanted to change it. They wanted to take some of the ownership. Right. And Ralph was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. And his show is still on the air 40 years later. It's regional, but it's still on the air. If you take our market, the New York or the East Coast market with New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York, you can take maybe 30 markets and put them together, and it still wouldn't be as strong as this market. So he didn't really give a shit. Ralph, at this point, he sells and he licenses out videos or interviews, and anytime you see,
Like
the story
movies
of
and stuff.
Jay-Z or the story of this one, they got to go to Ralph. But he licenses it for a certain period of time, then you got to give it back. So they got to pay for it. Every time they use it, they got to pay for it. So Ralph is getting a lot of residual money, man, from what he's doing, and rightfully so, man. He digitized all of his footage, and he's got all of that thing, all of it documented.
I would imagine a lot of these younger rappers wouldn't understand how big or how impactful Video Music Box was to hip hop. How would you describe that to someone now? Like how huge and the doors it opened, because for a lot of rappers that couldn't get airplay on the MTVs and stuff like that,
Right.
Ralph also kind of broke artists.
Yeah, he broke, yes. Just like a Funkmaster Flex, even though Flex is only on, his show is not syndicated, but his show is regional. He broke a lot of artists because we are in the hugest market in the country, is New York. And back then, artists didn't have a visual. You could only hear them on the radio. So when Ralph gave a visual to it, and this is when the 5 elements of hip hop started, when they're watching what we have on, they're watching how we dance, they're watching how we talk, they're watching all of these things, and now hip hop was born. We can actually say that, I can actually say in my lifetime, I was here for the beginning of hip hop. So if there is no beginning, you could put your finger on it. We're all living in saying that, yo, I can put a finger on the beginning of this.
Right.
So the young people, when I talk to them, I'm like, all right, bro, I'll tell you what, man. Like, if it wasn't for this, you wouldn't have that. And let me show you the history, and let me show you how it's documented on
Show the proof.
where it really, really started. Are you a hip hop? Are you into hip hop? Okay, so this is the first hip hop song. So that's why when DJ Academics went on and started disrespecting these older rappers that don't get no money and they broke and all this shit. And then, people broke it down and said, yo, bro, they didn't understand the business back then. They didn't understand what publishing is. They didn't understand what residual value is. They didn't understand that. They just were persuaded by excitement, and they took these deals, and they have no ownership. So on the backs of these guys going through what they went through, you're able now, because you've learned from their experiences how to read a contract and how not to take this and how not to take that, and you're flourishing more from it.
Right.
But you got to pay homage. I don't know if you watch LL when he responded to that. LL is real professional. He's like, I'm not gonna say no names without saying names, but I think you guys know, who I'm talking about. And LL has been in it from damn near the beginning. So he's seen that, the business side of it and everything else that goes along with it now. He's extremely professional, so he understands it. But I think that most of them get it, and you're starting to see a lot more tributes to a lot of these artists. There's a lot of old school artists that walk around bitter. You got a guy like AZ, for instance. AZ was part of the Nas era, but AZ, he's not getting his flowers like he should. And he was a part of that era, and he had some good songs where the business wasn't correct. So Nas figured it out. Nas was more of a primary artist, and he figured it out, and he was able to survive through it because he became a businessman. So that's why Nas is where he is now. I mean, he's almost a billionaire.
But even with Nas, I think he just started making most of his money outside of music, because
Of course.
He took a lot of L's.
That's part of the business. Endorsements, and most of these basketball players make more money outside of the court than they do on the court. I don't know if you guys realize that.
For sure.
So it's the endorsement game that's the biggest part of it. And again, that's business. The business side of you don't have a manager that's going to expose you to this, and that. It's like, then it doesn't make any sense. But we started learning the business more when we believed that hip-hop made a difference. In the beginning, it didn't make a difference. So if you went in a record store, you seen a small section like this of hip-hop.
Yeah.
You had two or three albums. Now, hip-hop is more popular than any other music, period. more than rock and roll, more than country, more than R&B, and in some cases combined. Hip-hop music sells more. Look at all the commercials. There just was this debate about, and we was listening to it in the car, Cardi B and Offset.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
They was like, nah, we keeping that. Because they
What she
understand.
do? Add ketchup to a burger and call it the Cardi B?
No.
What she did?
But come on, McDonald's
they
is
know the name. It's the name. Of
McDonald's is super mainstream.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, yo, hip hop is in everything. The jingles.
So was there a time when you realized that when, let's say at the time when you was at Video Music Box, where you saw that shift of where hip hop wasn't as mainstream, and when that you started noticing like, oh, I think hip hop.
I didn't see it. Now, when I was in it, just like the artist, I didn't see it
because you had a
because I was in it.
Right.
Right.
You was in a position where you wasn't all the way where the artists were, but you also wasn't where the consumer.
But I was in the trenches with them.
Right.
You know, some of the first interviews with some of these guys, Trey Songz, I did his first interview in New York. I did it in Times Square. It was me and Trey Songz. I didn't realize that the Biggie interview that I did was going to be in 4 documentaries. My interview with Biggie is in 4 documentaries, and it's also in a movie with the cop that's trying to solve the Biggie murder. They actually made a movie about it. And somebody called me and was like, yo, bro, I just seen your interview. In the movie, they showed the clip with you and Biggie. Did I realize that at the time when I interviewed Biggie, when I interviewed Tupac and Pun and all of these rappers that died, Left Eye, I've interviewed all of them. Did I understand what it was going to mean later? Nah, because I'm in it just like they are. That's how come when they got engulfed with the excitement, they signed papers without looking. They're like, yo, I could travel. I'm on tour.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
money.
going to Madison Square Garden. Let's do it. And they just did it, man, because they taking people out the hood, man, was a big thing. So the popularity, and the celebrity, even though I was only local, I was a local celebrity, but everywhere I went, even to this day, man, I walk up to a club and the dude's like, yo, that's, what's the name? And I still get that respect up until today. And it's so crazy, man. So, yeah, when you're in it, you don't really know. You can't see the picture if you're in the frame. And I was in the frame of it all. I was part of that history. I was part of that culture. I didn't know that I was going to be a part of that. I never knew that. Ralph, I think Ralph kind of knew because he had the vision. He had this idea like, nah, this is going to be, hip-hop is going to be something. I want to get in this.
Right.
And he did it at the right time. He saw something that a lot of us didn't see.
So you being old school, what do you think about the new school hip-hop?
Okay.
Do you like it? Do you have a favorite?
I try to be really objective and not subjective. The subjective part of me is always going to embrace my part of the culture.
Right.
But the objective part of me, that's like when I'm raising my daughter or my son and I say, you try that bullshit. Yo, when I was coming up, they don't want to hear that shit.
Right.
Nigga, this is not when you're coming up. It's way different. We're coming up differently. So you got to respect the differences in their culture. They like the mumbling shit. So, like, for instance, Talent Jr., who is Talent, the comedian's son, he does a joke where he compares music. And he says, yeah, I'm in the car with my dad. And my dad is like, yo, that new shit is trash. That new shit is trash. And then his son goes, yeah, well, what about your shit? Your ad-libs wasn't shit either. Like, huh. Yeah, throw your hands in the air. He said, what was that? He's like, yo, that was trash too. What kind of lyrics was that? So it was like,
right.
But we thought it was the shit back then. And it was because that's what it was back then.
Makes sense.
So what they do now, I think I like their beats and their, like the Drake kind of guy. And I think I like it, but I don't love it subjectively like I loved my music because that's my time and that's what I was raised on. But I respect what they're doing now because it does sell.
Right.
It is catchy and it's doing what it's supposed to do in the here and now, like right now. This is what they're doing. You have to respect them. And that's how I look at it. I respect their era. My era is different.
Right. Do you think it's destroying hip-hop, though? A lot of
No.
people feel that.
Nah, I don't think it's destroying hip-hop.
Okay.
It's all in the numbers.
Right.
All you got to do is look at the numbers. All you got to look at, all you have to do is look at, some of these young dudes that they're damn near billionaires now already. We used to think
it's crazy.
Yeah, all of them. I mean, they're all doing. It's in the numbers. You got to look at sales. You got to look at algorithms. You got to look at YouTube watches or whatever. When you look at that, you can't. It's not. No, it ain't going nowhere.
What was one of your most memorable days or times during that era of Video Music Box that may come to mind?
My most memorable time. When I interviewed Stevie Wonder.
Oh, wow. That's big.
Yeah.
And what was that at?
Nigga seen me coming.
Because that's like a conspiracy theory, too, right? They say they could really see us.
I interviewed Stevie Wonder. That was probably the most nervous time that I've ever had.
Right.
Like, because even kids now know. My daughter knows who Stevie Wonder is. Like, I asked her about somebody. I put the song on in the car a little while ago because this lady's gonna perform at my club. Her name is Cheryl Pepsi Riley. She had a couple of songs, and I'm like, you don't know this song? She's like, no, I don't know who that is. But you say Stevie Wonder,
Everybody.
she knows.
It's
Everybody
universal.
knows. It's like right. He was and it's like, they have intuition. And their instincts are crazy. So he's like, don't be nervous, bro. I'm good.
Wow, he picked it up.
He picked it up. Yeah. I was like, this nigga can see me.
Well, nobody said he see me.
This nigga can see me. So yeah, that and also not at the time, but now, as I look back, they called me for a press day for the Kings of Comedy.
Okay.
And it was at Caroline's. And this is before I actually got into comedy. It wasn't a moment then, but now when I look back at it now, I interviewed all four of them.
Right.
At the same time at Caroline's. Steve Harvey, Bernie Mac, D.L. Hughley, and Cedric the Entertainer. That was a moment for me, bro.
Wow.
Like, and I have fun interviewing them.
That's such a classic tour and DVD and movie. And
them guys, they developed to be the biggest stars in comedy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they're it's just crazy,
Who's your inspiration, Ray, in comedy?
In comedy?
Yeah, who inspires you?
I wouldn't say that I have one in particular. I can tell you my favorite is Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
Dave Chappelle is my favorite.
All time?
Hands down.
Right.
Funny, smart, witty. You don't get tired of listening to him. He's not gimmicky.
Right.
There's a lot of comedians that are gimmicky. It's like, it's almost like a rapper when you hear him rap, even though it's a different song. It's like, yo, this nigga sounds the same all the time. Dave Chappelle is always different, man. So Dave Chappelle is, my top five would be Dave Chappelle, Bernie Mac, Bill Burr, Tony Roberts,
Okay.
which he's not A-list, he's damn near A-list, and Martin. No.
Wait.
No. I'm sorry. I take that back. He's on the bench.
Martin's on the bench?
Not put Chris up there?
Chris Rock. Yeah. Martin's on the bench. So
Okay.
if Chris Rock
Why is he
wasn't
on the
available, then
Right.
boom,
Throw Martin in there.
I throw Martin in there.
Why you benched him real quick?
I had to bench him, no, because I did. Yeah, Chris Rock is
he was wilding out. But what about a guy that surprised you in comedy?
Bill Burr. Bill Burr used to do Black Rooms. Bill Burr was at the movie theater with me. Bill Burr did comedy rooms, like I was telling you, the little ghetto shit we had. Bill Burr did all of that. I never thought that right now, if you Google him, he's in the top 5 in the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bill Burr. I never, and what I respect about it is anybody who's in the top 5, they have a hood perspective. Like they grinded at these spots, in the hood. It's crazy, man. It's like mainstream comedy is cool. And yeah, you probably can get a little bit more opportunity if you're performing in these comedy clubs that are mainstream. But the best of the best all came from the hood. Like,
Definitely.
That's right.
really, it's like, Even a Tracy Morgan. Tracy Morgan talks in front of white people talking about how he took a shit in the pool.
Yeah,
You know, so
and gets away with it.
yeah, and gets away with it. He's still himself. It's like, yo, these white people want to see and hear our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're so interested in hearing about us. And that helps to popularize us. And urban comedy has become mainstream now.
Right.
When you look at Dion Cole, all these specials, man, Earthquake, all these specials, man, most of the big specials are comedians from the hood. And I'm not just talking about African American, because Bill Burr, he's a white comedian, but he's from the streets though. He's he's not your typical white dude. So, I mean, it's tricky, man. Kevin Hart, I wasn't surprised about Kevin Hart because Kevin Hart is likable. Kevin Hart has always been funny. I've used Kevin Hart many times when I was paying him $50, $75. He was likable. He was never the guy that you say, oh, this dude is a big headliner. But he became big because he's likable, he's easy to work with, and he's TV ready. And he has a personality. And if you really look at his comedy, that's all it is. It's a personality on stage that's likable. And people, they're not going to compare him to Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle or Bernie Mac or D.L. Hughley or Cedric the Entertainer. He's not on that level in terms of funny. But he's on that level in terms of likable. That's how come he's an A-list movie star. People love him, whether they're white, Spanish, or black. So we're not going to discredit him and kick him to the side because he's not as funny as Bernie Mac. We still like Kev. So we're going to like, yo, you know, that was all right. It was cool. We're not going to trash him.
He figured his lane out. He figured
it out, man.
Yeah, he figured his lane out.
He figured it out. And, you know, and what I really like about him is that all the dudes that came up with him, he's got them. They're with him.
Yeah, all the Spank Hortons and all. Well,
yeah, Spanky, yeah, all of them.
You think you'll ever make a comedy documentary? Because you've been in the game for how long? How many years?
30 years.
30 in the comedy game?
Well, entertainment. But in the comedy game, I'd say 25.
25 years.
Yeah.
And I know that you've collected a lot of footage over the years that's just stashed away that of guys. I remember when we were back in the radio station, we used to talk about this before, and you mentioned one time, like, we were talking about Rashid Thurman, and he was like, yeah, I got footage of him when he was first starting out that, you know, no one's probably ever seen. And I'm like,
I do. I have a lot of footage. So Guy Torrey made a documentary.
Fat something.
Fat Tuesdays.
Fat Tuesdays, yeah.
That was a comedy room that he developed on the West Coast. When he was doing that, I was doing the East Coast. And I had comedy rooms. I had 3Bs, I had Rendezvous, I had Casey's Cafe. I was the most consistent person with comedy rooms. J.B. Smooth, Dion Cole, D. Ray Davis, Kevin Hart, Tracy Morgan, Mike Epps, Donnell Rollins, Patrice O'Neal. They all came through my comedy room. So basically the documentary that Guy Torrey made was these guys who became stars when they used to play his room. So that was the West Coast.
Right.
So people been talking to me already about doing something similar from the East Coast because I was the guy who was doing it most consistently out of anybody on the East Coast. I was the one who was doing it. There was other people doing it, but they weren't doing it as much as I was. And they didn't have the popular rooms that were crowded like I did.
Right.
So, yeah, there's been some discussion about me doing a documentary. I really have to see what I have. And then not just that, I've done a lot of ski trips. I've done a lot of where I brought comedians and artists, and I've got videotapes, VCR tapes. I got DVDs.
That's crazy.
I got a lot of shit. It's gritty, but I think it's the type of stuff that would look kind of cool in a documentary where and the challenge with that is you need a lot of permissions. You need a whole bunch of signatures. It's a big challenge.
That takes time.
Not that I'm going to shy away from it, but yeah, I have been entertaining that. Like, maybe I can put something together. But since all of that, I have created the show Laffaholics, and even on Laffaholics, I got 36 episodes, an hour each, that I've done, courtesy of Brick TV, which we taped it professionally, 3-4 camera shoots, digitals, super dope. I have that. I'm getting ready to go to the UK to see if I got a couple of meetings to see if they want to buy it from me or license it for a couple of years. So comedy doesn't get old. That's one thing. Jokes are jokes. You know,
Right.
you can hear something over and over again. Never gets old. So I have the Laffaholics footage, and so that's and TK Kirkland and Michael Collier and Richard Pryor's son.
Seen that one. Right.
I mean, I'd like to see that happen.
I think we all
I
would.
would.
Yeah, nice.
I would like to see that.
So
happen.
going full circle, here we are, 275 Park. Congratulations on that, man.
Yeah, man.
That's big.
Huge. Brooklyn
That's-
needed
yeah,
that.
thank you,
Yeah,
man.
Brooklyn needed that real bad. I mean, like you said earlier before, we had Pips, but Pips wasn't ours. You know what I mean? They
Right.
really didn't let us in. The minority comics, they shut us down. You know what I mean? You were lucky. And if they did let you get in Pips, it was to make fun of you
Right.
while you were on stage. That's how they used to do it.
275 Park, home of Laffaholics Comedy Club. The reason
Mm-hmm.
why I wanted to call it 275 Park, I didn't want to isolate it for just comedy.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
Primarily it will be, but I'm a music comedy person. Video Music Box, Laffaholics. Those two brands, when you bring them together, you know, there could be an unplugged weekend where I have Big Daddy Kane that performs in front of an intimate audience where he's talking to them as opposed to a concert, or MC Light, or a Melissa Morgan, or RL, or, you know, or Jodeci. Like, I want that type of vibe too, with musicians and singers and old school rappers along with comedy.
Right.
So your A-list comedians, like I'm working on Godfrey. I'm working on Andrew Schultz, who's a white guy
Yeah.
that's super dope.
He's huge right now.
Yeah, he's really big. I'm talking to him. He came up with me. So that I didn't want to just marginalize the club and say it's only comedy, but
Right.
it is a comedy club, and the reason why it's a comedy club and a showcase room is because the way I designed it, it's strictly for a performance. It's a performance venue. There's no hookah. There's no dancing. There's no.
Right.
There's no.
It's not that vibe.
Nah, it's not that vibe. As you come, you sit down and you watch a performance, whether it's music or comedy. I didn't want to, although, you know, comedy is a primary thing of what I do, I didn't want to isolate it and not and have music inclusive of what I do. But the journey to get there, I've done a lot of comedy rooms. From 3Bs to Rendezvous to Casey's Cafe to an assortment of bars, restaurants, and places that I transformed into a club, and I made people a lot of money. I was at Lindenwood Diner for 15 years straight. I did 2 days a week, Wednesday and Thursday at Lindenwood Diner, and I was doing the movie theater, comedy at the movies. I've done Magic Johnson Theater. I've done College Point Theater. I've done the theater with you in Williamsburg. I've done Linden Boulevard Multiplex. I've done movie theaters in Connecticut and Jersey, and I did that for a while. That was a brand. And all of that experience has led me to this point now where 2 months ago I opened my own brand new comedy club soundstage.
If you're not subscribed already, press that red button. It'll cost you no money. You ain't even got to give me no weed. This is the Brooklyn Basement Podcast where we talk real shit. And when you press subscribe, it helps us in the YouTube algorithm so you can see us more often. So press that red button because we need you to do that shit. Like right now. Please.
I got picked to do the April Fool's comedy
Yeah,
show.
congratulations on that one. I heard that on the radio.
Yeah, but that's now.
That's
but,
now, yeah.
But I did the April Fool's comedy show twice at the Barclay.
Okay.
I did that with Rip Michaels from Wild 'N Out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's me and like a whole bunch of people on the lineup. 3 people got booed that night. T.I. Remember that? The
Yeah.
T.I. situation? I was on that show. Me,
How you
Tony
feel about
Roberts.
that? Rappers trying to do comedy and
I mean, he has, anybody who's a performer, if they really believe in comedy, they have the potential to do it because you're already on stage. One advantage I had was I was on stage already. I was on stage.
Yeah, but
I'm
you
in front
put
of
in the
people.
work.
Yeah,
He
but
didn't put
you
no
were-
work in. He
Yeah,
put
I know.
no work
He
in.
put 2 weeks of work in, and then he tried to do the
Yeah,
Barclay.
Right. He was really
He got booed. But
he got booed.
That was horrible.
so that was like that was my biggest audience. What I'm really saying, it was 14,000 people. And then so when you do it, first of all, you can't see anybody because you're blinded by the lights. So you have to rely and believe in your whole. You just got to be confident. You
Right.
can't feel out like when you're in a comedy room. You can see people's reaction.
Yeah.
In this situation, you say a joke, the shit like does like this, and so you have to you can't go as fast as you normally go because you're gonna step on top of everything and you're not gonna understand. So that, you know, and when you write a joke and then you get a chance to do it in front of people, bro, like the high is like, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Cocaine high and a stage high is
Same high.
Yeah, yeah,
in a sense.
It's just better because it's natural.
Right.
And that's how, you know, a lot of comedians have dark sides. If you don't know how to balance it out, you know, you see a lot of comedians commit suicide and, you know, mental health issues is because there's a dark side that when you're not on stage, it's like where are you getting your fuel from? And my fuel comes from producing and organizing. And
So when you're not on stage, you stay busy
I
with all
stay
the other
busy
stuff
with what I do.
with the business side of the comedy.
Yeah. So I develop things and I see the end result, you know, whatever.
And that's another high too, because now you
Of
get
course.
the high of behind the
But
scenes.
it's so exhausting.
And then
You know that to like produce a
is.
show and then they actually go in there and host the shit.
Bro,
That shit
it's
is so
crazy.
exhausting.
It's crazy, man. That's why I call this the last chapter for me. This is the club. Like I didn't want to do any club. This is the club right here, bro. Like,
This is beautiful.
I'm really happy with the end result of it. My daughter's in town now just to help me to market it and produce it and
Nice.
do things that they see that I don't see. And that will be it for me, man. That's it. I'm enjoying this. I don't feel like I work, which is the best thing. You know, when I gave up my job years ago, from that day forward, I never felt like I had a job. Like I work.
But also, like, as part of the high, you're also putting on other comedians. You've always been the guy to give the new guy an opportunity without, you know,
100%.
without, oh, let me see what you got first. How many, you know, just kind of, all right.
Yeah, me and John Lasseter were talking about that. How one time you had put us on in Canal Street. You had some rooms in Canal Street, and John Lasseter had just got here from Denver. And he was like, go over there, you get $75. You go over there, you get $50.
Yeah.
And John Lasseter was like, yeah, he used to pimp us. I was like, yeah, but we wanted to be pimped.
Yeah.
We, in a sense, we wanted to be, you know, pimped out.
Donnell just mentioned in one of the clips, he's like, hey, you still trying to give me $20 for this room?
$25.
Yeah, $25.
But we wanted, I mean, listen, comedy, if you want a comedian,
You
you
gotta
want to
pay
get
your
dough.
dues, right, Ray? Yeah, listen,
We pay our
You
dues
want
for free.
stage time
The fact
or not?
is, we go for free. We get a little stage time to work this shit out for free. We do it for free. We kidding.
Yeah.
A lot of comedians say, "Oh, I get paid for everything." No, you don't. You don't.
Donald, when he did the show the other night, down at the end of the show, like you saw him on camera when we did it, but
Yeah, just
at
so
the,
that could.
at the end of the show on stage, Donnell stopped and he's like, "Yo, I gotta take my hat off to Ray because he gave us 30 years, and you know, he said, yo, Ray's not lying when he started paying us, you know, the money he was paying us, but that's what it was at the time." But he gave us an opportunity to work on our craft and develop ourselves. So I mimicked the same formula from Ralph McDaniels. Ralph McDaniels would take a new artist and play his video. He doesn't have to be on the radio. He could be underground, but he's going to give him a shot. And a lot of those people he gave a shot to became big. Wu-Tang is one of them.
Das Effects is another one. I remember
Yes.
Ralph putting Das Effects on for the
put
first
on
time.
a lot of these artists. When they gave them a visual, they like, oh shit, who is this? And so I followed that same formula. So the new comedian, you know what it is. You got to do. It's called bring two shows.
Yeah.
You got to have a certain amount of paid people. You have to do this. You got to do that. And then most of the time, the audience is nothing but comedians. So it's like,
You're not really getting that
practice. You're not getting that real practice in. So that is I'm going to have a straight night for just that at the club. We're going to develop that and let comedians do their thing. I mean, even on some of these bigger shows, I'll give somebody like a little shot.
Yeah.
And like Julio, like you referred me to Julio.
Shouts
Julio
to
came to me
Julio's.
through AR. I wouldn't have, like AR was like, yo, give my man a shot, and I put him on. And then I've seen the dude like develop.
Yeah.
I still got that
But he's
footage
hungry.
from that day too.
Now Julio's he's doing really well, man. Last thing I want to mention is, you know, when you say I'm a hustler, like I try to adjust to everything. It's just like, you know, you gotta adjust last minute, last quarter. Gotta make adjustments. So when we hit the pandemic, I panicked. I'm like, yo, what the fuck?
Right.
This is when you get a little afraid because you work for yourself. I don't have a 9 to 5.
Right.
thank God I was disciplined to save money. But I'm like, yo, what the fuck am I gonna do?
And it seemed like the entertainment thing was gonna be the last thing that would come back.
I'm like,
The
man.
offices and all that maybe, but entertainment was just like, is it even gonna come back? Restaurants.
Yeah, because you couldn't have people around each other. But then Governor Cuomo said you could have drive-in movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
When he said that, I'm like, bing, we could have a drive-in. I'm doing a drive-in comedy.
I remember that.
That takes a real
Bro.
hustler to put together.
That was the best thing I ever did.
And that
First
shit
of
was
all,
weird but fun.
We spoke
Those
about
things.
that with Julio on the podcast one time. He was like, you know,
Julio did it a couple of
yeah.
times.
He was like, it was probably one of the best shows that he ever did.
Bro.
You know.
He did, listen, I was doing the drive-in comedies 3 days a week.
Wow.
We came up with this catchphrase called "Round of a Horns."
Mm-hmm. Round of
So when I
horns.
brought a comedian to the stage, I'm like, "Yo, give my man Julio Diaz a round of a horns.
Dope.
If the nigga's funny, beep your horns.
Or flash
If
a
he
light.
ain't funny, high beam him and beam your horn. If he ain't funny,
Quiet.
don't do shit." So, there's one comedian, I ain't gonna say his name. The nigga got up there.
Nah.
You know, so I started doing Lindenwood. Then I did Lindenwood had another diner in the Bronx. I started doing a diner in the Bronx too, in the parking lot. They had parking lots. I had the stage outside. I had the lights. I had speakers. I eventually invested into the transmitter, where now I say, yo, put your radio on 91.3,
Oh, that's dope.
and it's in the car. Then I had the speakers. And then the comedians was like, yo, this shit is mad awkward, bro. I said, yo, you got to rely on confidence. You got to believe that they're laughing in their cars.
Right.
And Talent said, the best thing for you to do is pay attention to one or two cars and watch the people. And you can see them laughing.
Right.
Then you know. So just focus your attention on that car. But then I got to the point, I'm like, all right, they can't hear them laughing. I put mics around the parking lot. So basically in the summer, everybody's windows were open. So when you can hear the people laughing, it comes out the speakers. So
Nice.
now they can hear. Now they like,
To get the feedback they need to continue.
Yeah, man. And Dave Chappelle, when he did his first outdoor show, it was a drive up. And he's like, yo, he referred to me. Somebody called me, yo, Ray, Dave Chappelle just referred to you about some dude in Brooklyn that's doing the drive-in comedy. That's when Dave started doing them things like every week at his
house in Ohio.
at his house in Ohio. And I think Solo Jones came and said, yo, Ray, Dave Chappelle just referred to you doing the drive-ins in Brooklyn. I was like, word? So yeah, that was like, and then we started doing Zoom, and we had to figure that shit out. How do you do Zoom and get energy?
Right.
Right.
I figured that out. I'm like, all right, you could have people where their mics are on. So what you do is you pick 20 people and you tell them your mic is gonna be on.
Oh, okay.
You tell them your mic is gonna be on. You can't have nobody in the room. You can't have no distraction. You're an audience member, a real audience member. You can't get up. So when they're watching the show, they're laughing and we can hear them.
Right.
So now it's better. But in the beginning, everybody's mute.
Yeah.
And so you can't hear nobody laughing because
You're
they
not
didn't
gonna-
want to turn everybody's mics on because niggas would start talking or whatever or having side conversations.
Yeah, the baby crying in the background.
Right. So they would strategically pick 20 to 30 audience members. This is your job. They would give them a script. Yo, you can't do this, you can't do that, can't do this. You're a real audience member, so because we're going to hear you laughing. And then it started working really well for us, and we started booking a lot of that shit. And, thank God we came out of that, man. That was the time.
The point is, there's always a way, right?
Always a way.
But there's a will, there's a Ray.
There's always a way. Always a way, man. Always a way, bro. I was doing the comedy in the prisons. I did that it was called stress reduction comedy.
Okay.
I would go into jails after working in there as a substance abuse counselor. I figured it out, gave him a proposal. It's like, yo, I want to do stress reduction comedy in between Thanksgiving and New Year's.
Nice.
Because that's the most violent time in the prison is during the holidays.
Everybody's missing their families and stuff like
I
that.
had
Stressed
niggas
out.
on tour on Rikers, bro. We used to do 30 shows in 30 days on Rikers Island. Me, A.G. White, Brooklyn Mike, Freddie Ricks, John Laster, all of us. We used to go to the jail and perform for the inmates. Yeah.
And how did that idea come about?
It was I had left there working, and I started getting into the comedy game. I had comedy rooms, and I thought about, because I used to see they used to bring in singers, they used to bring in people to entertain the inmates. I'm like, yo, how can I bring a comedy show here? They put in a proposal. I put in a proposal. They agreed. And I used to, it was crazy, man, because we would get paid in one check, and the comedians would get like $75 per show. We used to do 2 shows a day. By the time we finished that month, these comedians was getting a check for like $3,000, $2,500. I'm going to end with this, but talent says...
This is the closer.
Well, I'm saying, y'all may have more questions, but
No.
talent puts me on shows now, and sometimes he puts me behind, like, ridiculously funny dudes. I'm like, yo, bro, I only been doing
he's
this.
testing you. That's when you graduate, they call that.
Ray, so you never got to worry about who you following, bro. What you got to worry about is when you go out and you get them to go on to connect with you.
Right.
He said, you got to go out there and do something that shifts gears and moves them in another direction. Then you don't have to worry about taking it from, he left you on the 23rd floor, and now you got to go 24, 25, 26. He said, you can't worry about that. You got to move them to another building. So go out there, let them know who the fuck you are and why they should listen to you.
Right.
So now when I go on shows, I'm like, yo, y'all niggas ain't applaud enough. First of all, let me tell you who the fuck I am. I did video music box for 30 motherfucking years. I got my own TV show at Laffaholics Live, 36 motherfucking episodes. You know, I go through all of this. I'm like, I need to reintroduce and then they were like, oh. So now it's like I got their attention, and I take them from that point. I take them from there, and then I move them where I want to move them. But I grab their attention. Now they're listening to me, and they forgot about the nigga before me. Anytime you go to these big shows like Steve Harvey, if he headlines anywhere, you know what happens after the comedian that goes before him? You know what he does?
He pauses everything.
Has an intermission.
What a cheater.
20-minute intermission. Why does he do that? Because they want to reset the audience. They reset the room.
That's
like
dirty,
it's in
though.
the beginning of the show.
That's dirty.
Could that hurt the night, though?
Nah, that's a strategy. You don't know that. You just think it's an intermission to go get drinks. You have no fucking. I'm a producer, so I understand what they're doing. Martin, when he first started his tour, he was headlining. They took that nigga off that shit immediately. You can't headline no more, bro. You have a headline name, but you can't headline. You think the audience gives a fuck whether you go last or you host? They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They want to see you more anyway. So let them see you do your little 10 minutes up front, you know? And then it just introduce niggas. Motherfuckers, and then you do like a one-liner when you come out. They're never going to say, this nigga wasn't funny, because you don't have to hold them for an hour. The headliner got to do an hour, bro. And those type of shows, you have to do an hour consistently. And hold everybody's attention for that fucking money. Martin, immediately. Same thing with the Kings of Comedy. You know who was the headliner of that show first? Steve Harvey. D.L. Hughley was the host. Cedric was first. Bernie Mac, then Steve Harvey. 2 shows into that tour, they switched it. Right. They made Steve Harvey the host. The reason why Steve Harvey was a headliner is because he had the biggest amount of credits. He had the Steve Harvey show on TV. He had a bunch of shit. The other dudes didn't have all of that. They only had Def Jam. So, nigga, you getting the most money, you go last.
Right.
That's why he was last, because he got the biggest name. So you're supposed to have the biggest jokes.
Right.
But
he's better as a host. And you see, henceforward, the nigga is on Family Feud.
Yeah.
That's the biggest host gig ever. He's a host. He's naturally an improv dude. He got quick one-liners. He's good at that shit. That's why he's on the radio. But headliner for an hour?
No, he can't do it.
He can't do it. Know your position. I know my position on the team. I'm not going to worry about, you know what I mean? Like, even when I did the Barclay, Little Kim, Busta Rhymes, Tony Roberts,
Michael Blackson,
T.I., a few other names, D. Ray Davis, right? I told Rip Michaels, I was like, yo, nigga, don't put me in the beginning of the show. I don't want to go in the beginning. Nah, yo, Ray, I'm telling you, bro, you don't want to go later on in the lineup because, yo, you might get booed. I said, fuck you, nigga. I'm not going to get booed. I know what to do. I'm the only nigga from Brooklyn on this show.
Right.
You think I'm going to take advantage of that one point?
Right. I
don't give a fuck if you put me behind Lil' Kim. I'm going to come out saying I done interviewed Lil' Kim 7 times. Y'all know who the fuck I am. I'm from Video Music Box, nigga. This is Brooklyn, right? Boom. Put the Jay-Z on. My name is Hov. You hit that shit, all of a sudden you got rah. And I do my little 10 minutes and I leave. He didn't want to put me later on in the show. He put the Wild 'N Out dude, the white boy, bombed. Put this other nigga from Def Jam, bombed. Put T.I., bombed. He put me like, he did 2 like amateur acts, then he did all this video shit, and he did 1 artist, and then he did me. I killed the shit. And I'm sitting in the back, me and Tony Roberts, because Tony Roberts, we see T.I. bomb, we see the other dude bomb. So Rip Michaels comes over, he said, yo, see, Ray, I told you, man, you didn't want to. I said, and Tony Roberts was like, nah, nigga, Ray wouldn't have bombed like that.
Right.
That's them niggas. That's them niggas. Apparently, you don't know this, you don't know how to produce a show.
They produced it wrong, right.
You don't know how to produce a show because just because this white dude is on, you think that Brooklyn gives a fuck? They didn't give a fuck that it was T.I. When he first came out and they played the T.I. song, they was with it.
Once he started telling jokes, man.
They was with it. They gave him 5 minutes.
They gave him 5 minutes.
They gave him 5 minutes. But then they was like, one nigga got up and was like, all right, nigga, that's it. Come with the jokes. And one nigga, and then
I remember that shit.
Then them niggas got up and was like, you could get whatever you like. And they like, yo, bro.
Did they shitted on him hard?
They shitted on him. And it was
hard.
What was so crazy about it?
Hard.
I'm sitting there right by the stairs that you come down off the stage.
Right.
And so Tiny is standing in front of me, and then all his groupie niggas. So I'm sitting there, me and Tony Robbins. Nigga comes off, and the dude's like, "Yo, nigga, you did a good job." I'm looking at this nigga. These niggas like these dudes just sucking his dick. Why would they tell him that?
That's how he wound up in that spot because of shit
right,
like that.
Right. And you know,
if they'd have kept it real from the beginning.
You know how there's this thing I call, it's a term I use called a cement ass. So when a comedian doesn't do well, right, he don't want to leave because it's disrespectful for you to leave. There's other niggas performing. You got to stay around, bro. This
Win or
nigga
lose.
will sit down and won't move from that chair. I call it. I said, homie got the cement ass. And he did a bad job. He didn't want to get up.
That's fucked up, Ray.
He's too embarrassed. He's too embarrassed for y'all niggas to see him walking. So I'm sitting there with Tony. I'm like, yo, this nigga T.I. got the cement ass. He ain't moved from that chair yet. He don't want to walk around. He don't want to walk. He don't want to walk around.
I don't think he did stand up after that again.
Nah, he did a couple more spots, I think, and then it just.
But
he's still doing. He did Salsa con Fuego.
Oh, that's right.
After that.
Recently, I think he did.
Yeah,
that
but I was there. But see, here's the thing. If he would have did that shit, then he would have got booed again in the garden. See, the thing is, when he did Salsa con Fuego, it's a smaller place. And all the people that came are T.I. fans.
The rapper.
So they'll give him a pass.
The rapper.
Right.
They're not going to boo you. Plus, you're in an environment where niggas could see you booing.
Right.
So, at the Barclay, you can hide under that shit. You on the roof, nigga. Niggas can't see. Niggas is just booing.
You were there
like,
changing light bulbs and booing at the same time.
In Southside, they tolerated him, and they waited to take the picture with him. And Tiny was there, and they wanted to take pictures with Tiny. I said, yeah, these are fans.
Right.
These ain't, because all the comedians, well, first of all, he didn't let Rob host, because Rob would have destroyed it. He let his man host from Atlanta, and he had this other kid come up before him. So that was strategically set up where these dudes are just melancholy, like mediocre type comics where they're not going to blow it up. And then he came out. And so they tolerated him, and they enjoyed the fact that it was T.I., and they were fans. And he charged like $65 a fucking ticket in Salsa con Fuego. So you know that only fans came.
Yeah.
No pun intended, only fans. But so yeah, man. So that's the art of comedy. The art of comedy, man, is an interesting dynamic, bro. It's like, why do people laugh what is the reason why people laugh, which is the hardest question a comedian can answer.
Mm-hmm.
And once you come up with why people laugh, then you'll write better as a comedian. It's funny, man. It's like, yo, I say some shit. I said this thing once in a show, which I don't know why I said it, but people laughed. I said, my mom is Puerto Rican and my father's Haitian. I said, guess what? That equals Dominican.
Yeah.
And then people laughed. I'm like, holy shit. Every time I say that now, people laugh. It's a one-liner. And I would have never thought that people would laugh at that. But they do. So I kept it. There's other shit that I ran across that I said, and I'm like, holy shit, the niggas is laughing. If you do it 2 or 3 more times and people laugh, you keep it.
Right.
And then before you know it, you got a set. It's just like, yo, all this shit I bumped across accidentally, and now I done put this shit together in, a few one-liners to get everybody, and then you take them on, and then I do the story type jokes. But
so that's the
it took you long enough, Ray. I tell you that it took you long enough. I was like, when is Ray gonna come out? When is Ray gonna actually
like I was gonna come out being gay?
No. Like get out of the hosting thing and actually do a set. And then I saw you in what's that, Polygon, the one over there by Williamsburg, Mark Vieira's show. Yeah, that's the first time I actually see. I was like, wow, this is much heavily awaited, and he did great. And then you were still hosting, but you did an actual set. Like you did your 2 minutes of hosting and. Then you did your set, and it was out like finally.
How much time you got now on stage?
I could do an hour and 15, yeah.
That's dope.
Straight.
That's dope.
Yeah. I could do that much.
I remember when we used to be in the studio, actually mad comedy questions back then. Like, yo, how do you write jokes?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of basic elements to writing a joke, but if you look at the Def Jam comedians and you look at mainstream. Even Julio and Talon and them, like, so they're becoming mainstream dudes, and they're a lot of their cadences are the same. They're like, subject, setup, punchline, subject, setup, punchline. Some people get to it quicker than others. Like Tony Robbins is rapid fire. So Tony Robbins can condense a joke to the point where in 1 minute you'll hear 3 to 4 jokes. But most comedians, one joke is about, 2 minutes, a minute and a half. But the way Tony Robbins writes is that he's so fucking funny that you're laughing on top of jokes that some of the jokes you don't even hear, you laugh so much. But I try to find funny in things that happen in my life. I'm trying to keep it to my life now because I don't want to be accused of stealing a joke. Because so many people's premises are so close to the same that you'll get accused of stealing a joke. And when I was hosting at first, it's funny, man. You not even like subconsciously, you're thinking of something and you're around the comedy so much, you might repeat a line that you heard somebody say, and then they say, "Yo, this nigga is using my joke," and it wasn't intentional. Right. You just around it so much that it just comes out. It's almost like you're hanging around somebody else starting to sound like each other. Yeah. That's the thing about me sounding like Talent. I was around them so much until I had to get into my own. But now I just try to get into me, like my life, what I went through, jail, drugs, family, kids, life experiences. You do that, it's a customized joke. Right. You can't tell me that I didn't go to Elmira. You can't tell me I didn't walk down the corridor. Right.
And I can't say as a comedian that I went to Elmira. I can't sit there and do race shit because it's no way impossible because it's authentic. You know what I mean? So
it's just finding the funny, though. You got to find the funny.
Yeah.
Right. You can tell a story, but you got to find funny, which you think that generally you're going to reach the most people in the room.
That's the hardest part.
That's the hardest part. Now, in every spot I go to, I look at the audience. I'm like, who's fucking here? You can't do a Puerto Rican joke in certain places where you can't do a Haitian joke because they have no fucking idea what you're talking about. You can't do a welfare joke in a prestigious college with all these, because they don't understand welfare. And if you do the joke, you have to explain it. So in explaining it, then you create a story and you create a visual for them. So, you could I could go in a comedy room right now in the hood and say, "Yo, anybody know what a face-to-face is?" Everybody knows. But you'll go somewhere and they looking at you like, what the fuck is, oh, I know, y'all niggas is bougie in here. Let me explain what a face-to-face is. So I got to explain it. But in my comedy room, in my normal I don't have to explain it. I could just say face-to-face. They know what it is.
It's going to kill.
All right, so it's 90% bougie. All right, let me explain what a face-to-face. So back in the days, it was called welfare, but you guys call it social services, where you had to get assistance from the government. And they would give you checks. Y'all know what that is, right? Yeah, we know what that is. Republicans, y'all niggas know it. Y'all know. Y'all the money that you're giving us that you hate giving us. So now they understand.
Right.
So now you like, okay, yeah. So every so often for you to keep giving me the money, you bring me in to interview me. It's like the first 48. You're going to investigate me to make sure that I'm still eligible for the check you're giving me.
First 48.
Now you see how I'm going through So now that they're understanding, I said, so, you know, we were lying about a lot of shit. So my mother used to sit us down and we had to practice before we got interviewed by you motherfuckers. And my mother had a chalkboard and she'd say, okay, listen, you pendejos. You have to listen, escúchame, pendejo. Número uno, you tell the guy, tu mamá no have a job. That's lie number one. So now they like, oh, shit. Número dos, tell the social worker, nunca, I don't hit you. And then I say to the audience, this bitch is lying because this bitch be whipping my ass.
You was with lie number one, but two starts getting a little like.
I'm like, yo, the third one is the killer. So everybody be quiet. Shh. And my mother goes, escúchame, muy importante. Ay, listen. Tell the social worker, tu papá, he not living here. So, and I'm like, as a kid, I'm like, you know what? I couldn't take it no more. I had to confront my mother. I'm like, mommy, papi living here. No pendejo. He no fucking living here. He fucking living here. We don't living here tomorrow. Carajo. That joke, it works so good without the explanation.
Right.
Because everybody understands it in the hood.
Yeah.
But when you go somewhere else, you got to explain it. But then they'll get it. It's going to take you 2 more minutes, but they still get the joke. So comedians got to understand that it's all about your audience and what's relative and what's not relative. And you know what? I can't do this joke. I can't do this joke. Kenny Williams, we went to Barbados to do a show. Listen to this shit. You know who Kenny Williams is?
Yeah.
We go there.
Had him in the,
we go there. Listen, it's a festival, Caribbean festival. They had a comedy segment. Me, Kenny Williams, Brooklyn Mike, and somebody else. I'm hosting. I'm just doing reggae shit. I'm like, yo, I ain't really doing no fucking jokes.
Right.
I'm doing reggae shit. Me and Brooklyn Mike was paying attention to their culture and was like, yeah, you know, when they searched us in the airport, they asked us, did we want to buy weed? Like, we're just saying all of these things that they do. Kenny Williams goes out there, and he starts telling a joke about the trains. And a guy on the platform that be talking to himself, the crazy dude. Yeah, you ever be on a train? I'm like, what, this nigga, they don't got trains out here. What the fuck is he doing? So they just looking at him, and all of a sudden, bro, boo, blood clot, boo, fuck, yo, nigga, it was 10,000 people booing Kenny Williams.
And he's a beast.
He's a
quiet
monster.
Ask Kenny Williams about this story. If you ever talk to him, say, Ray told me about this story when y'all went to, no, it was Antigua, not Barbados, it was Antigua. He'll tell you, man. He was like, oh, shit. Ray told you that fucking story? Yo, they booed this dude off the stage with steel drums, bro.
That hurts. So that's what we're taking away from it. Be true to yourself. Write jokes that are about you.
Yeah.
Teach your kids to lie, right? That's the number
exactly.
one. That's the one thing you're going to learn from this. And, you know what I mean? We'll always find a way to figure it out like Ray did. In every circumstance, you always find a way to
figure it out.
But he's from Brooklyn, so you always figure it out as a Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You always hustle your way through things and make things work.
And always help somebody else out. Because one thing for sure that Ray's always been there for me whenever I give him a call. He's been like, he might grunt a little bit and be like, all right. But he'll be like, all right, he'll give in eventually. So with that being said, we want to thank you for coming.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Definitely appreciate you, Ray, coming, man.
I'm glad you gave me the right address this time.
Yeah, I was fucked up with you last time.
I didn't do it on purpose. I was having a bad
I was on Broadway, bro.
You was in front of his shop. In front of his
and
shop.
I was still trying to get him to come away. I was like, yo, you think...
Fucking Brooklyn Commons or whatever that shit.
Yeah, that's...
We're not gonna talk about that right now.
Ray was pissed.
Maybe we'll get a night. We'll get to do a night at your new spot. We'll do something. We could do a night over there, Brooklyn Basement Podcast, when we build this thing up.
Build it up, man. You do it right off the stage.
Once again, man, we appreciate you. I always appreciate you. And I guess we'll see you over there at the new club, and
Yeah, Drew Frazier this weekend, right?
Yeah, Drew Frazier.
Yeah, Drew.
Brooklyn Mike Night is Friday.
We there.
Okay.
Brooklyn Mike Night is Friday. So that's a night where Brooklyn Mike, I let him produce and bring all new comics.
Okay.
And he hosts. It's a free admission night for the audience.
Gotcha.
And so he
it's free. We in
handpicks.
there.
Yeah, I went that Friday.
Ray don't give none for free.
Somebody, I think Brooklyn Mike said that night too. Ray don't give shit for free. I gotta take advantage.
Yo, people give Ray a hard time, but Ray's he's solid, bro. He's solid.
Definitely.
I'm always gonna get the hate. That's the part that we didn't talk about. The better you do, the more you do, the more they hate. That's it. That's a part of the game.
Can't please them all.
Well, you can't. Yeah, you just gotta keep going. The hate is good though. The hate should fuel you up.
As soon as he did his first dope haircut, somebody said it was a fucked up haircut. You know that, right? As soon as he's got popularity in the shop, niggas try to nigga,
we did some good shows together too, though.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
I surprised you a couple of times.
Yeah, he's about his business. People like him, so people like AR, so they're gonna come out. They come out for him.
Ray was trying to gas me up one time. You should do stand-up. He was just trying to get me to bring the people to the club. Ray, be like, yo, this guy knows a lot of people. Yo, AR, you should start doing stand-up. Start in my club first.
I did tell him that though.
All right, man.
This is the Basement Podcast.
The Brooklyn Basement.
And one of the hosts is the super of the building.
You gotta
Don't give away all our secrets.
This thing is the super. I no pay no rent. I good.
I got the keys.
Porque yo soy el super. I'm the super.
He's not a good super either.
I know stupid. I'm super. I don't do shit. Pero I'm the super. I don't pay no rent.
And the basement still got leaks.
Yo no pago.
Yo, we out of here, man.
All right, man.
Wait, let me do his name drop.
Give us a drop. Tell everybody how this is the best podcast, whatever. Lie.
Yo, this is Ray Dejon, Laffaholics Video Music Box, man. You are in the basement because it's the Basement Podcast,
the
number
Brooklyn
one.
Basement, bro.
I'm sorry, my bad. Okay, let me do it over. Second take. Yo, this your boy Ray Dejon, Laffaholics, 275 Park. Video Music Box, Dance Traxx. You know what I do. You're hanging out in the best Brooklyn podcast.
Come on, Ray. Still fucked it up. Look at me.
He said, fuck this basement.
Brooklyn Basement.
Basement. It's not that hard,
Brooklyn
bro.
Basement.
Yeah, podcast. All right? And go.
Yo, this is your boy Ray Dejon for Video Music Box and Laffaholics. Hey, guess what, man? You are hanging out at the Brooklyn Basement podcast with your boy Ray Dejon. Don't get it twisted. Yeah. Get it faded. He's also a barber. Let's go.
And the super.
And don't forget the super.
And the super.
Later.
No supermarket, the super.
Yo, turn off the camera. We'll be here all night, bro.
Thanks, Ray. Man, appreciate you.
Final four. Yeah. They want to see you doing good. Yeah, they want to see you doing good. But I wasn't blind. But never better than them. Yeah. I come from the bottom. There's no you that's not him. So if it's a problem with one of my you know that I got him. My brother, they shot him. Wish I was beside him. He would have been here or I would have been with him. Cause I'm a rider, I wish God could send him back. The reason why now I don't get attached. The love that I give, I don't get it back. But that right there only lit a match. I love it cause that just exposes the real from the fake. Somehow it's always like giving they trade. Same ones that sit back and watch me starve are the same ones that I put a meal on they plate. If you gon' leave, don't come back. Go. All that fake love, I don't want that. No. Everybody wanna be around when everything is smooth, but never with me through the rough patch. Loyalty, that's nothing new to me. Not the type controlled by opportunity. Gave him life and look at how they doing me. So I had to dead him, this a eulogy. I'm taking hits for the cause I'm with. I got bitch with the grip and I went saying me and Uncle on them trips. We been poor, we been rich at me over the half and I made that flip. Back on the strip, me and Slay with the we paraded the mix till we made it a brick and we stayed with the stick cause the haters legit. Now they mad that we up, they can't take that we lit. They don't wanna see me up, they wanna see me down. When I was coming up, nobody was around. Bitches ain't wanna hug, they treated me like a clown. Now when they hit me up, I'm acting funny now. They don't wanna see me at the top, how? So I'm riding through the city with my top down. Supposed to trying to see me, but I'm hot now. Told them see me on the TV and they shock, wow. Gotta watch all of the haters when you in the light, cause they always in your views, never in your likes. It don't matter if you lose when you in a fight, winning cause I'm not afraid to lose. Get it right. All I wanted was support from my day ones. But now that I got the sauce, they ain't A1. I ain't never wanna force when it ain't done. You could take it as a loss when the day come. And it's coming 100 miles and I'm running. They show you loving you something, but then you don't even want it. Keep it 100. I needed you when you fronted. I'm weeding, I'm blunted, and now you need it for nothing. Can't be friends with it, get it, wanna live your life. Cause when it's time to betray you, they ain't gon' think it twice. So when you turn your back on them, they gon' get the knife. But I ain't rolling with this like I forget the dice. Jealousy is love and hate at the same time. And I'm hearing what they say through the grapevine. I can tell they feel away cause of they grind. And they only in the way when it's game time. I've taken hits for the niggas I'm with. I got pitched with the grip and I went saying me and Uncle on them trips. We been broke, we been rich. Hit me over the half and I made that flip. Back on the strip, me and Slay with the we paraded the mix till we made it a brick. And we stayed with the stick cause the haters legit. Now they mad that we up, they can't take that we lit. They don't wanna see me up, they wanna see me down. When I was coming up.
It's been almost 2 hours.
Oh.
It's been almost 2 hours.
Oh.